Hello, Trekkies and Trekkers. Welcome to this amazing Star Trek podcast on Trek Tuesday. I'm your host, Maya Eileen, and I recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek TNG. Today, we recap the episode The Offspring. But first, a note of the host of this podcast. I'm looking for a Trek friend who wants and have the time to recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek with me. That also means I have to decide to name the podcast because Ghost Talking Trek was something from me and Amanda. The podcast will now only be available on YouTube or the Facebook group. If you are interested, please contact me. I would appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. And now for the plot of the episode. Data invites Deanna Troi, Wesley Crusher and Jodie LaForge to his lab and surprises them by introducing a featureless humanoid android, whom he created based on his own structural design and recent advances in Federation cybernetics technology. Describing it as his child, he named the android Lal, after the Hindi word of beloved, and encouraged it to select a gender and appearance. With Troi assistance and consideration, many of the onboard species as well as the databanks, Lal narrows down to 4 possibilities, including a Klingon male, which, as Troi points out, would make it a friend for Worf, but in the end selects the appearance of a young female human becoming a Gainoid. Data first aids Lal with cognitive and standard behavior algorithms, as well encourage her to interact with other members of the crew to learn behaviors and social customs. After a failed attempt to place her in school, due to the other children being intimidated by her, he placed her under guidance care at the ship's lounge, 10 forward. This leads to some awkward moments such as Lal misunderstanding the concept of flirting and kissing, which she first interpreted as attacking, until Garden makes an effort at explaining the practice. Intrigued by this, Lal engaged in suddenly dragging and kissing Commander Riker over the bar, leaving him baffled, earned him a fatherly scolding at La "What are you intention towards my daughter?" When Data walks in on them, Lal nevertheless adapts very quickly, even to everyone's amazement, surpassing Data as stated by her ability to use contractions, something Data never achieved. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, being informed about Lal and her progress, expresses concern to Data for constructing Lal in secretly, but Data reminds him that he would not expect such concerns were 2 humans crew members to decide to procreate, to which the captain was little argument. Nevertheless, Picard, as per general order, reports to Star Trek, prompting Admiral Heftel to arrive to evaluate Lal. From the outset, Heftel is determined to transfer Lal to a Starfleet science facility. He interviews Lal, where she reveals her desire to remain on the Enterprise with her father, but Laval is unmoved. And now I'm reading this. This reminds me a lot of when Bruce Maddox did that to Data. Upon leaving the meeting, Lal visits Troi in the consular quarters. Lal is clearly confused and distraught, and to Troi's amazement, reveals that she is feeling fear, experiencing an overload of information and emotions. Lal soon stops speaking and warns of eventually returning to Data's lab, as she is programmed to do in the event of a malfunction. In the meantime, Havel meets with Data and orders him to release Law into Starfleet's custody. So Data moves to comply. Picard orders him to stand fast and reminds him and the Admiral that Data is a sentient life form with defined rights and cannot be ordered to turn what is, in a sense, his child over to the state. But before the discussion can get any more tense, they are interrupted by a call from Troy, who explains that what has happened to Law and asks everyone to come to Data's lab at once. Upon arriving, Data diagnoses find Law emotion outbursts and as symptoms of a cascade failure in her post-traumatic brain, and they must work fast to stop it. Seeing Data's sincerity, Havel offers to assist Data, who accepts. Sometime later, a worn-out Waffle leaves the lab and informs Troy, Wesley, and Geordi that they have failed. Visibly moved at Data's determination to save his child, Havel explains the failure was irreparable. He is visibly overwhelmed himself, concluding that Law will not survive for long. Data apologizes to Law that he could not save her, but Law thanks Data for her creation. She lets him know she loved him and will feel the emotion for both of them. Data returns to the bridge and Picard conveys the crew's condolences. But Data reveals that he has downloaded Data's Law's memories into his own neutral net, sustaining Law's memory and experiences. So I'm going to rewatch this episode. I hope you do too, and then I'll be back for the recap. Stay tuned and don't go away. So in the first scene, we see Wesley, Geordi, and Troy walking in the corridor, and they're talking about that Data has sent for them. And my immediate reaction was, why Wesley? Why does he need to want the kid coming to him and show him what he got? And in one way I can understand it, because okay, Wesley has a lot of knowledge of technology, etc. But why in this settings? You know, it was kind of weird. Data's very mysterious, and when they come to his lab, and Wesley pushed the bell, he said, "Oh, well, you're early," and then asked for a minute and closed the door. That is so not Data. So Data is introducing them to Law, and when Law is really doesn't have a gender or doesn't have really features of a species, then we see it just like a robotic engineered thing, and Law is calling Data father, and Wesley is really blown away by that. So Data is telling them, "Well, Wesley, it's my child," and all three of them were flabbergasted what they see and what Data has created. So Data went to the cybernetics conference, and there they had a technology that could make it easy to do things in the cybernetic mainframe. So that is how Data could use that technology to create Law. So then Captain Picard is informed what Data have done, and he's not really amused. And there is this little discussion of that Data had to inform Picard first before he is doing this. And Data's response was, well, I don't see any of the other crew members asking you advice of informing you when they want to reproduce. So now it's Troy and Picard walking to the corridor and discussing what they need to do, because this is in one way very unique, and in another way it's very how do you say it, they don't know what trouble they're in for. And like I said in the intro, it reminded me what Bruce Maddox would do to Data, because he wanted to study Data, and I had that feeling that Starfleet is in that way very scared. And I don't know if the synth already, that situation on Mars already has begun, like in Canon Picard, Star Trek Picard. Cause I need to take a look if Star Trek Picard in that way is more before TNG or after TNG, then, but I think it's after TNG. So, but my feelings was that Starfleet was very, very scared of it. That's why they sending that Admiral to take a look for his own eyes. And it's just, we also need to remember is that Data did this just not in his own, that he wanted to have children. It is more like that it is something that maybe he did want children, but I mean, like, he didn't think about it, that what it would do to human beings. Now is Picard a bit of a hypocrite, because he has this conversation with Data now, that he told Data, well, it's a creation, it's you did this out of your own, but you should have notifying me, because it's more like an invention than you having a child, etc. And then they said very innocently, oh, sorry sir, would you like me to deactivate Law? And then Picard became angry, because he said, you can't deactivate her, it's an invention, it's a creation, it's a life form, so you can't simply activate it and deactivate it whenever you want to. And Picard, Troy told Picard, it was like this. They were walking in the corridor and Picard said, how can we name an android a child if it has a strength of 10 men? And is this in height? And the younger Troy said, well, you never have been a parent. What was in one way funny and true, of course, but the simplicity of just having an offspring. And that's why I am agreeing with Counselor Troy, because she said it is a unique life form, and it is not as stupid that Data wants to have an offspring, which we learn, of course, later in Star Trek Picard that he has several. And I think this is, Law is just the first project of him And I can't remember if he have worked with daystrom to develop more androids as him, because I thought, of course, we have prototypes of Data, but we don't know what Starfleet has done with it in a way of course, we know we created the synths and androids, but he always will be, in my way and in my eyes, a bit of a unique, because he is one of the first one, but he, in one way, he always stays a bit of superior in a way. And you can make an android as much as human as you can, but it will never be Data. Data has this uniqueness of, okay, I am an android who wants to be wants to be human, but he is trying to succeed in that he's becoming human, or be as much as human as he can. And once again, that reminds me of that movie with Robbie Williams, that he is a robot, but in the end he changed so much that eventually, just a few seconds after his passing, they declare him human. Okay, so Data is talking with Picard, and first the conversation is about parenting, and then Picard is a bit frustrated because Data doesn't understand what he has done by creating law and what this means for technology, etc. And then Data was wise to answer, to say, well, I know exactly what I did. I know exactly what can happen, but I am the last of my kind. So if I'm being destroyed, there is no other android or technology that can make me as an android again, or an android. And in one way it's very nice to see that once again Data is thinking like a human. And like, I don't know if I said it in last week's episode, last episode, Amanda loved this episode, and it is a pity that she isn't here anymore and could talk about it, because she was really, really into this. Yeah, to this episode. She loved that Data had his own child, and I can imagine that she had a lot of to say about it in this episode. So this reminds me a lot of her, and well, I think it's not again that we see. I think Gene Roddenberry's influence of taking a lesson to us on screen. And yes, Gene Roddenberry was someone, I don't want to say could see in the future, but he was definitely somebody who would be, more daring to talk and show things in those situations, because there are a lot of things in nowadays reality that we take for granted, or don't know how to cope with it. And I think Gene Roddenberry always had episodes like this, and I can't remember if Gene Roddenberry already passed away at this time when this episode have been um, came out, but so Data, Law, and Troy are walking to a holodeck now because Law has to choose her gender and appearance, and Law is very interested in that because now she can choose what she wants and in how she's going to represent her itself. And so it's going to be a bit of a journey to, yeah, to consider this all. And in one way it's weird because if you let something like Law choose, and like she's an android, so how can she choose her own things? And she's a robot, So, in one way, this is very weird. In the other hand, it's really, how can I say this? Maybe it is something on technology that they can grow, We see that with Data. Every time Data is on screen. So hours later, when Law has seen all the possibilities of it, over the thousands, what's in the data, computer data, she narrowed it to 4 appearances and gender. And that will be a female Andorian, a male human, female human, and a Klingon male. Which reaction of Counselor Troy was, a fan for Worf. And so she asked Law if she had a favorite, and she said, yes, I have chosen. So now we are back in the lab, and Data has configured the last details of Law, and she became a human female. So Data is training Law now in the aspects of life, and some things are going good, some things are not going good, but okay, she's slowly learning. And it is very funny how Data expressed himself as the father, and we see that it's a beginning of official careness, because Data and Law can't feel, although we see that Law is processing more and can understand the emotion more, which is, I think, Data can only hope for. So this is a weird thing. Law and Data are now in 10 forward, and they are drinking and eating. And the weird thing is we all know that they both are androids or robots. So why do they drink and why do they eat? That's, I think, a thing that they didn't thought through about it. I don't know what you guys think of it, but yeah, let me know in the comment. So Wesley is involved with some kind of a laws education, and then there was this moment that Wesley was asking Data if he considering sending Law to school, and Data didn't understand why Wesley was asking that, because Law was just 2 weeks old and she had all human knowledge from him. So I think also that um, what applied to humans are not really applicable to androids. And but I do like the fact that Data is trying, and in a lot of ways, not even becoming a dad, but also in um, creating his own offspring. And um, so he is really developing the first developing of the future android and the future synth, so they can help people. And it is a pity that humankind again are scared for something what is new. So we see that Data ended the transfer of law, brain, and information, and she has this storm of questions, and Data can't answer them quickly enough, so he shut her down. And then Data made this announcement that tomorrow is the first day of Law's school. First day in school. And I believe that that's not going to be that well, because she is in that case very intimidated by to the kids, because she seems older and she has already all this knowledge, and that is quite intimidated for the kids. So Captain Picard has this conversation with Admiral Haftel, and he tried to convince the Admiral that Data is doing a good job, so they don't have to be separated. And he is really, and that is how we know Picard, of course. He is like that to fight for one of his crew. And then we have the scene that Data is consulting the teacher, but also I think she is a scientist in the class where Law has been, and she has been scored very good on her exams, etc. And so there is this problem. She is very wise of her age, but because she doesn't understand things like feelings and how something is put together, or that she, for example, have to play with the kids and share it with the kids. That is one of the reasons that they put her by the younger children. And that is a big contrast to what she really is and what she really can do. Data is paying Dr. Crusher a visit in sickbay because he did some parental advice about Law. And they have this nice little conversation when Dr. Crusher tells that Wesley and she didn't either had a easy life to make friends, and she has always been different, etc., etc. And they came to the conclusion that Data was the one who could help Law with this. And how they don't feel, they still have enough information to get through this. Only the parenting way here is very different than for humans. In the middle of the night, Picard is getting a social phone call of Admiral Haftel. And Haftel tells him that he has talked with Starfleet about his concern about Law. And so he's going to become on board personally and to review Law's process. And if he isn't satisfied with it, he is still authorized to take law with him. Which gives me the feeling again what Maddox did to Data, to study him, etc., etc. And I really was thinking of how can you be like that, you know? You can't move forward with certain thinking. And it is, yes, I can understand where the fear is coming from, but why not be open to it as well? And not every synth or android is bad. So the next scene is that Data's taking Law to 10 forward, and she has to observe human behavior. And there is this little cute conversation between Guinan, Law, and Data, and in the end, Guinan is hiring Law as a waitress so she can observe human behavior. What of course make a funny scene with Riker. And you can see that Guinan in the beginning didn't want to be mentoring Law, but after what happened to Riker, she knew she has to step in. Captain Picard is informing Data about Admiral Haftel, and Data told him, well, I regularly send him reports about Law's process. Then Captain Picard needed to explain to Data that probably Admiral Haftel will take Law away from him. And Data, of course, is against it, and I think Data has very fatherly and you know that's it, because when Data and Law were in 10 forward, Law I don't want to say overstepped him, but she did something Data's program never could. So she is learning fast. And instead of I have, she used I've. You know, I have. But then short. So her process is very starting to go fast, and she is exceeding Data. So the whole fiasco in 10 forward has been passed, and it is clear that Law is developing and processing a lot of behaviors of human. And then we are coming back to Captain Picard's wedding room, because he is in conversation with Admiral Haftel, and Admiral Haftel is right away telling him, well, I'm here to take Law with me and blah 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 blah, so worst of the worst kind. And Picard is trying to be as civil and diplomatic as he can, but he also is, from his opinion and perspective, that Law is better honed and better considerate in processing things is with Data, and not in a stupid daystrom institute with people who don't know the android. So I'm wondering also in what contrast this is with the Daystrom Institute in TNG, but also in Picard, because we see that the daystrom with Geordi LaForge, if I'm correct, developed the synth. And how far are they related in this situation? And is that maybe the outburst of Coop when on Mars in Star Trek Picard? So guys, if you can help me with that to answer those questions and why I'm thinking about that, etc., put that in the comment below. And yeah, let me know what your theory is about that. I really don't like the Admiral. He is trying to convince Data now to give Lau up, and that she needs to be processed at daystrom and keep an eye in daystrom with professional people. And I was thinking, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Because Data has been programmed to do that in that way, and he's not violating Starfleet procedures or protocols. So what are we talking about? What are they so scared of? And it is good to see that Picard is fighting for Data and Law, and that they been treated like humans and not like robots. Of course they are robots. And what we also see is that they are impressed that Law is a better version of Data already. Admiral Haftel is not pleased with Law, what she's doing, serving as a waitress in 10 Forward, etc. Even Guinan is, I think, liking Law and is very positive with her. And I don't know what it is with Haftel, but I really don't like him. And he is ordering Law directly to get an interview with her and take her with her. And the first thing he said, she has to commit me, and that's the point. And is it stupid that people thinking like that or whatever, and thinking that once again humans are better than everyone else? So yeah, I was thinking, nah, not on my watch, but okay, we will see what the next scene will bring. So there follows a conversation between Picard, Haftel, and Law. And Law is very communicative what she wants and what she have learned. And she is conducting and she is prepared not to get manipulated by Haftel. And Haftel being, oh my god, I can't stand him. He's really, really like a snake, He's trying to form his word this way that she will understand his side, and that he tried to over communicative to be like already keeping her in line in that way, if I can say it like that. Forgive me, for sometimes the words are still rumbling in my mind, and I do know the words in the Dutch, but I forget them in English at the moment, so bear with me. Well, it's just like, I must say, I'm very impressed with Law. How she processes, how she talks, how she is, and she looks more human than Data, and even more in this more human as in the sense as in Picard. So, but that didn't that admiral also didn't play an admiral as wasn't he the admiral that was affected by the parasites? I think he is, but okay. Let me know in the comment if he really is. So after that conversation, Law is very upset and scared as she goes to Counselor Troy. And when Counselor Troy notes that she is really scared because Haftor wants to take her away from Data, Counselor Troy is very supportive for Lal. And it looks like that her processing all this what is happening is becoming too much for Lal. So now follows a conversation with Data, Picard and Haftor to so Data needs to voluntarily sign Lal over to Haftor, and Picard and Data are standing their ground that Lal is better off on board the Enterprise. And I'm so proud of Data that he is standing his ground and saying, no, this is my child. And even in this conversation, Picard has changed his mind about Lal and Data having a child and calling the android a child. And he is denying every order now from that admiral and told the admiral, I will take this to Starfleet myself. And Haftor is like, dude, you are giving up your career as a commanding officer and captain of Starfleet. And Picard is saying, yeah, I do. Sometimes you can't follow orders directly because of the essential of being, and especially a new being like Lal. So, at the highest point of discussion, Counselor Troy is calling Data and saying you need to come back to your lab because there's something very wrong with Lal. So Picard and the Admiral are joining them, and Diana Troy is explaining to them what happened, that Lal actually feels emotion and that she was confused and scared. And so Data said, well, we need to do this and that, and the Admiral was agreed. And there was some kind of a little moment that you saw in him that he was regretting how he handled this whole thing. And he asked Data if he could assist Data with this to help Lal. And so Data, who can't feel emotions and feelings, accepted his help. And I don't know what you think, guys, of Haftor, because to change his mind this way, you know, it reminds me again of Bruce Madsen, that he wanted to do this to Data. And it's really, I don't know if Gene or that the writers had purposing a message or teaching, but yeah, it looks like that. I think it's also with the prejudice of people, and has to do with it, because it isn't, of course, an emotional thing that, well, emotion like me of fear, like I said, prejudice, maybe jealous, and there was another one, but I can't remember it now. But it is taking a toll of the newborn child, if I can say it like that. After hours, Haftor comes out the lab, and Troy, Geordi, and Wesley, how ironic, the three who has in the beginning met Lal as for the first time are waiting, and Haftor is sorry because they couldn't do anything for Lal, and this time you could see all the emotions from Haftor. And I think there's also a part of fatherly emotions with it. So he tells that Lal is dying, and they did what they could, but there was a collapse after collapse, and you could see Haftor had admiration for Data, how Data was and how Data actually as a father responded. And I think also that is with the thing of the emotions around the androids, and that Lal actually could process to feel. I think that was a shocker. So Lal and Data have to say goodbye, and Lal tells him, Dad, I love you. And Data couldn't say it back, and he wished he could feel the same. And Lal said, well, I will feel for both of us. And after that, she thanks him for her life. The end scene is that we see Data going to the bridge, and everyone is saddened by his loss. And then Data tells them, well, maybe she's gone, but I transfer her experience and her memories into my own again. So she will always be alive in a way. And maybe I can learn something of her experience. Well, that's very beautiful. And that is the scene that ends, and you could feel the sadness on the bridge. What again reminds me, we see Dr. Crusher on the bridge. Am I the only one who asking herself, why is she on the bridge? She normally isn't on the bridge. And so, yeah. So tell me, guys, what your thoughts are on this episode, and what you liked and what you didn't like. Oh, wait a minute. The rating for this episode is an 8.6, and I must say I liked this episode. I knew for a fact that Amanda would like this episode, or was liking this episode. She always talked about it. And I must say, it was a pretty good episode. So, tell me what you think about this episode and what you would rate it. Thank you guys for listening, and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode recap. In the next episode, we will recap the episode Sins of the Father. I also have 2 other podcasts, namely the My Eileen Talks podcast, which is some kind of a geek podcast where I talk a lot of Star Trek, and the Dutch Ready Room podcast, which is in my native language, Dutch. You can find both of the on YouTube and Facebook. The My Eileen Talks podcast is also to find on Spotify, Anchors, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music. I will see you in 2 weeks. Live long and prosper.